Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome back to the Onyx Tavern Vlog series on Russia Sentai ToQger. I'm your host, Rick the Barkeep, and today we will be covering Station 19, now departing Build-Dai-Oh. Now this episode is actually really good. I really enjoyed it, maybe not as well as some other episodes, but what's very interesting about this episode is that it is actually better than what it is billed as. Basically, this episode is advertised as the introduction of the Build-Dai-Oh. The Akira has himself a new Zord in this episode, but what actually ends up happening is that the story is not really about Akira at all. It's actually about Takachi. That he has a story that's in here, and everything else is really kind of superfluous to what his story is. So I want to go ahead and talk to you guys about basically the main plot and how Takachi actually fits into it, and of course a couple of smaller things that they're happening within the episode. So basically what happens is, as we get to the beginning, we find that Akira gets his new Zord, the Build-Dai-Oh, which, by the way, I think is probably the coolest Megazord in ToQger. I have the toy of it, and it is really awesome, and it's really awesome to see it on the screen as well. But he finds the Build-Dai-Oh, and somehow, because he's in the Build-Dai-Oh, or somewhere, I'm not exactly sure why, and the episode is not clear enough on it, Akira goes missing, so the ToQger all search to go ahead and look for him. And Takachi, he is the one that finds him first. So basically, Takachi, he's planning on helping out the situation to bring Akira into the fold, because we have to continue that plot where the Sixth Ranger doesn't really want to be part of the team, wants to be the loner and the outsider, and drag that whole thing on. Again, I'm sick and tired of that, and this episode is the third episode that we've had with Akira, and we're still continuing this plot, and I really kind of hope that we eventually get past this, and I'm sure we will. But anyway, Takachi wants to try and approach him to get him to go ahead and join the team. But his approach is really abrasive, to be honest, and is not really working on Akira. And of course, in the episode, what ends up happening is that the other Rangers and the Rainbow Line get captured, or really in this case, buried alive, and I will talk more about the logistics of that here in a second. And Akira and Takachi have to figure out a way to go ahead and save him. Now, the thing is, Takachi's really trying to get Akira to join the ToQger, and he seems very passionate about his discussion about basically Akira and the rest of ToQger all becoming friends. That's what he's really kind of getting at here, is that Takachi wants them all to be friends. They want them all to go ahead and be happy together and all that good stuff, which is fine within itself, but he really seems to have a passion for it. This is where we get into the best part of the episode, I think, is that we have a flashback to when Takachi was a child with the other ToQger. Turns out he was actually a transfer student into the school, and the other four ToQger already had their own clique. They were already friends together. And Wright and the others befriend him, hey, transfer student, and that's what they kind of call him and all that. Do you want to be our friend and all that kind of stuff. And what this goes into is that Takachi wants to bring him in like his friends brought him in, that his friends made him happy and made him want to go ahead and belong. And is that friendship that he values most, because nobody else was kind of willing to give him a chance except these guys. And he wants to do the same thing for Akira that they did for him, just offer that hand of friendship. And Akira gets it, but he's not really receptive to it, to be quite honest. But we'll get to kind of what happens with Akira at the end. But again, I really like this because not only is it character development for Takachi, but his actions are actually motivated by a personal reason, something that has happened in his past. This is not something where he just decides he wants to do it to show off or be better or anything like that. He actually has a genuine personal reason for doing what he's doing, and I really like that. I mean, that's, again, character development. Again, this episode is supposed to be about Akira, again, the Build-Dai-Oh, but it ends up being Takachi's story about what friendship means to him and how he wants to have others experience the friendship that he has had. And I think that's really great. And what's even better is by the end of the episode, and of course all the action stuff happens, but at the end of the episode, what happens is that Wright now approaches Akira about coming into the group. And Wright is basically just having a casual conversation with him. He's like, how many bento boxes can you eat? I ate this many bento boxes. Wright doesn't have an ulterior motive to get Akira to join the team. He just wants him to join the team. He just wants to legitimately be his friend. Compared to Takachi's strategy, where he's like trying to force the situation. And what Takachi learns is that you can't force the situation on him. You have to be casual. That's how you build friendships. You can't force friendship. And I really like that because, first of all, I personally have had issues with that in the past, and not just friendships, but also in romantic endeavors. I think the lesson is the same, nevertheless. But that's a really good lesson, I think, to teach children and people who are actually watching this, to not force a friendship. You have to let it evolve naturally. And, I'm going to be honest about something. The way I actually met Raptor was I was at Taco Bell one night, and he commented on the Black Ranger shirt I was wearing, and I was like, oh, you like Power Rangers? And we got into a conversation about Power Rangers. And I just said, hey, hey, here's my podcast. This is in the early days of the tavern. And I'm like, yeah, hey, give me a call. Let's talk about and stuff. And then the rest is, history, as it were. But I didn't force a conversation with Raptor. We just started talking about it, and we eventually became friends. It evolved that way. It was just kind of natural. And I think that's a good lesson for the kids to go ahead and learn, that you have to, don't force a relationship, just kind of let it happen. Be casual with the person. And I think it's the same. I think it can be applied to relationships. I think this would be interesting if they did it in a romantic context with some character. Might not work for ToQger, but maybe a later series, is that you can't force that either. You just can't force any type of relationship, friendship, romantic, whatever. So I think that's a really great lesson for the episode. It could teach people. And again, I was really surprised because I went into this episode, I was like, okay, it's going to be Akira, we're going to drag this out, hear more about his death wish, blah, blah, blah. And then again, Takachi, who honestly is kind of my least favorite character at the moment. I don't know why. It's, for some reason, and this happens with me with a number of characters, like anytime you watch a character in a show, I get this feeling like, do I want to hang out with that person in real life? And what is that actor actually like? And for some reason, I don't get a good vibe of Takachi's actor, whose name escapes me at the moment. And I'm not saying he's a bad person in real life, because there's no way that I know who he is, but there's just something irksome about him that I can't put my finger on. So he is kind of my least favorite ToQger at the moment. Hikari and Mio kind of being towards the top, but Akira certainly, because he actually has some character development. But the thing about Takachi is now he has a character, he has something in his past that is motivating him, and that I really appreciate. He's still kind of my least favorite, but he's not like the worst, I guess. But the fact that they gave him something in an episode that was meant to introduce a new Zord, that's really cool. So that's the main plot of the episode, but I want to go ahead and talk about a couple of other things that happen within the episode that are kind of important, incidental, and the idea is we're covering the entire episode, not just the main plot. So we get our villain shot, and of course there's more going on with Zeth, where he's trying to figure out what it is that light was that he had seen. Really no further revelation. I think they're going to stretch this out as long as they can. Greta and Schwartz. So here's the thing, is that Schwartz is going to act against the Emperor, and the Emperor knows it. What he's going to do, I'm not exactly sure. We still don't know what his plan is. And Greta basically says, I want to help you take down the Emperor. That's not exactly what she says, but that's basically the vibe that I'm getting, is that she no longer fears the Emperor as she did, which is making her more confident in her actions, apparently. And she still loves Schwartz, and Schwartz seems to know that. And she has pledged herself to help him in any endeavor that he has. So we already have this fracturing of the villains. I mean, I think we've had it for a while, but now it's become very apparent. It's Greta and Schwartz, Baron Nero, oh, what's the lady's name? But you know how I'm talking about, the Baroness or the Mistress, Madam. Oh, she has not been in any episodes where she's done anything significant, so I'm barely remembering her name right now. But we have three different factions all working against the Emperor, and we don't even know what the Emperor's true goals are at the moment, other than his interest in things that they're shiny, basically, things that sparkle. So this, I can't wait to see where this kind of leads us. You know, is Schwartz and Greta going to try and overthrow the Emperor at some point? Is Schwartz really is he going to take over? What is it exactly? I'm not really sure, but the best thing about Sentai that they do in a lot of cases is they subvert our expectations. They come out and do something that we don't expect them to do, which makes it all the more interesting. Sometimes it can be stupid, and they still subvert our expectations, but nevertheless, I'm really interested in seeing what happens with these two, because again, the villains are kind of the best part, say for the female, what's her name, and I'm still curious about what's happening with Zet here. So let's also talk about the villains' plot and how they plan to stop the ToQger in this episode. So they get the fence shadow to basically put fences up around the train to prevent it from escaping. Here's the first problem I have. When we get introduced in the episode to the fence shadow, the rainbow line is running along the tracks, and a fence pops up right in front of them. Okay. So how did the ToQger get out of this situation? Well, believe it or not, they actually switched the tracks to go a different direction. First, they're switching the tracks from inside the rainbow line. It is my understanding that you cannot do that. That has to be done from some central area. That you can't command the train to switch the tracks from where it is. But it's a science fiction train, so let's go with it. But then the fact that the fence is right after the switch point. You would think the fence, if this guy was smart, the fence shadow that is, they would be before the switch track to prevent them from doing such a thing. But no, it happens and they get out. But what's really dumb about that is that, I hate to break it to everybody, but I think the writers have forgotten that the rainbow line works in 3 dimensions. And what do I mean by that? It goes X, Y, and Z axis, meaning it can fly. We have seen in several episodes that the rainbow line can actually fly into the air and project a track on up. It doesn't actually need to be on a real railroad track. It can make its own tracks in the air. So the fence, they don't hop the fence, which they should just fly off, and then the fence shadow should not be an issue. If they are on the ground, it is an issue, but if they're up in the sky, it should not be an issue. But they don't think about doing that. Now, to the episode's credit, after this series of stupid events, the fence shadow actually creates these spikes that go up and arch themselves over the rainbow line. So, if they were trying to escape by flying, they can't do that anymore because their escape route up top has been cut off. So that's a little bit of forward thinking, but they should have established the fact that, one, they should have established that the rainbow line moves in 3 dimensions. We know that from watching the series, but if they could just like show it, like, oh, we're just going to fly over the fence, then they can have that thing where, okay, I'm just going to put it over top, and now you can't get away from it, which is what they should have done in the first place. Then they actually they steal the drill Resha briefly for the episode and use it to bury the rainbow line in mountains of dirt. And of course, the episode hinges on Takashi and Akira trying to save them by digging them out. But the Rangers, the ToQger inside the train, along with Wagon, the conductor, really don't do anything to escape their predicament. We see them in there, but they never once actually tried to get out. They do try to call the other Resha, but they're not able to do so, which I don't understand. Basically, the episode's implying is that if they're covered in dirt or within the mountain, their signal can't get through or something, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but it's a contrivance for the episode to get where we need to be, because if they could call on another Resha, then we wouldn't have this problem. Well, I don't think it's a good script when your immediate danger relies on you forgetting or contradicting information that you've had in the past. And I don't think they've ever technically contradicted it, but they should be able to get a signal through a bunch of dirt. Okay? I don't get the problem. And second of all, they don't even try to actually escape. They can't call the Russia. That's all they do. Well, isn't imagination the basis of the series? So why couldn't they use their imaginations to get out? Now, I'm not saying the imagination is any type of MacGuffin or Deus Ex Machina for these episodes, even though it has been in a couple of cases. But why couldn't Hikari, like, imagine that his axe was actually a shovel and that he could dig them out? Or Koaga, I can never get her name right, but the ToQ Pink, or the Pink Ranger, why couldn't she imagine herself as Supergirl again? Or imagine herself as Miner Digger to get herself out? I mean, they didn't even attempt that. If they attempted it and they failed at it, that's one thing. But the fact that they don't even think about it and they just sit and wait to die, which, by the way, it also seems like Wagon breathes air, because that's what their problem is they're right out of air. And Wagon seems to breathe air, and that makes no sense because last I checked, she was a robot, or at least she's implied to be one. And that's another thing. They run out of air. We have seen in the show already that the Resha can go into space. Not by its own accord, but it did go into space, and they were able to maintain gravity. So, I pose this to you. It is a technologically advanced train that can go into space, has evidence of gravity plating since they didn't flow away when they did go into space. Why doesn't this thing have any type of environmental control? I know it's not the Enterprise, but if something is designed to go into outer space, and again, I'm sure it's designed because, again, it can fly, then it should have some sort of oxygen thing in there. Some sort of environmental system that would prevent such a thing. Just really confuses me, that this whole thing. But they're able, Takachi and Akira are able to get them out by the drill Resha and, well, the Build-Dai-Oh with the drill Resha and all that good stuff. I knew as soon as I saw them buried, they were going to dig them out because that's exactly what the Build Resha is for. Let's talk about the Build Resha, or Build-Dai-Oh for a minute here. Again, great Megazord design. Just a couple of things I'm a little curious about. One, Akira basically goes in and retrofits the Build-Dai-Oh to his specifications, by which I mean he puts a bunch of pulleys and levers in there to work it, as opposed to the computer console that it already has. Now, he justifies it saying that it's basically like a wild stallion, that he can't control it. To which I have to scratch my head, because it seems like he's implying that it has a consciousness of some sort, which I don't think that's true. The episode doesn't really indicate that other than his dialogue. And the fact that he's actually going in and building new controls for it really surprises me. It's kind of like somebody who gets a PlayStation 4 for the first time, but decides to go and mod his Nintendo Entertainment System controller to work with the PlayStation because, oh, that's going to be so much better. That's seriously what it seems like to me, and I don't get his logic there. It works for whatever reason, so there you go. It works, but I just don't get it, and again, I don't understand why it's, again, why he has to have all the pulleys. I mean, it's not like they're, I mean, what are they saying? What's the point of that? It just seems like another task for him to perform in the episode that really has no payoff, it seems. And the final thing I want to go ahead and get to is something that I like and I dislike at the same time because it makes no practical sense. So, in the big battle at the end, before they get into the Megazords, the ToQgers are all fighting on the ground against the Fence Shadow and the Crows and so forth. Well, the 5 primary Rangers all do their ToQ change to transfer to different colors. Then Wright is telling Kira you should do the ToQ change as well. Tries to turn into orange, and it does not work. And here is the explanation given to us by Ticket. Now, this is translated from the original Japanese, but this is what TV Niho says the translation is. 6th doesn't need to transfer. 6th, Akira, doesn't need to transfer. So I have to ask, if he doesn't need and that's where I'm looking at here, need to transfer. Why do the other ToQger need to transfer? What is the necessary need for them to transfer? As I've said before, there is none. This is just diet Gokai change, basically. And I have to wonder, again, that's the explanation. I really doubt they're going to give us any other explanation later in the series. I don't know why. But from a production standpoint, I have to wonder, your whole gimmick before you introduced the Sixth Ranger was that they could all change, they could all have each other's weapons, and make the Red Ranger pink. That was your whole thing, that you were kind of marketing this off of the Gokai change because everybody liked that, and I guess this was a way to do it where you didn't have to have 11 Rangers in the series like Kyoryuger. But why did they not want to do the ToQger change with the Orange Ranger? Is there a reason for that? Did they just kind of say to themselves, yeah, we're going to have all of them do the ToQger change except Orange? But why? I mean, again, I don't like the ToQger change. I think it's pointless. It's a waste of special effects and costuming. But why didn't they decide to do that with the Orange Ranger? I don't get it. I mean, you think that'd be the natural thing to do. Then we can get like two female oranges, and they all switch the weapons, and Kira could be like, this is pointless, whatever, and stuff. But they didn't do it. I'm kind of happy for it, but I'm also like, that's very inconsistent with what you were trying to do with the original characters. And I just, again, I don't get it. And again, what's really confusing is he doesn't need to transfer. Well, none of the characters needed to transfer. It was never essential to the plot that they had to switch powers. It never really was. But it is needed. Again, maybe they'll explain that later in the series, or maybe this is the only mention. We'll find out. We're only 19 episodes into, I think, about 46, 47 episode run, so who knows? Something may come down the line. But that's all I really have to go ahead and say about the episode. Again, I think it was kind of well done in terms of the character of Takashi. I think the overall plot was kind of, they didn't really think this through and forgot their own continuity. But other than that, I think it was pretty decent. So definitely a fun episode to go ahead and watch. And I look forward to the next station, which is Station 20. And let's see what happens there. So I want to thank you guys for listening to me this evening. Have a good evening. And the tavern is now closed.